Welcome to season 7 of the Erasing Shape podcast. I am Victoria Chang, your co-host, and today my special guest is Christin Lee.
Yay! Thank you for having me.
I wanted to yell more, but then I was like, maybe I'll blow up the sound.
Yeah, all good, all good.
Yeah. We'll get into why Christin is my special guest. But let me talk about the goal of the season. The goal is to have real conversations with real people, not AI generated, not
Yes.
professionals even necessarily, but people who can share personally about their lived experiences, stories that you and I can relate to, and we're friends, so that makes it even more special. So yes, my special guest is Christin Lee. Christin, what is the story of how we met from
Yes,
your perspective?
from my perspective. So I was a senior or becoming a senior in high school. I grew up in Maryland for most of my life, went to the same Chinese church growing up, and then we heard that there was a new pastor joining us, and his family was also moving, and happened to find out that his daughter, Victoria, was going to join our class. And yeah, so that's how I met you. And okay, I'm just gonna say this. When all of us met you for the first
I
time,
already know what you're gonna say.
okay, our whole class literally was like, wow, this girl is so cool.
No.
But it's true because like you played ultimate, you sang really well, and also you're super sociable and confident but humble at the same time. You taught us all how to prayer squat. Like everyone, I'm not saying it just for myself. Like I literally remember getting messages from my friend being like, "Oh yeah, that new girl. Yeah, she's really cool." Like Victoria, yeah, she's super cool. So that was my first impression.
That is so kind of you.
I mean, it's true.
Okay. Thank you. Um, from my perspective, I did not feel cool, but that is so interesting to hear. And I do remember you complimenting me and a couple other girls, and I was very touched. But yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I didn't have any Asian friends really. Like I did, but most of them were like most, when I say most, I'm talking about like less than like 5 people on my hand.
Mm.
That's like being generous. In school it was
Mhm.
mostly white kids, black kids, not really a lot of Asians. There were some adopted ones. But yeah, it wasn't until I moved to Maryland that I began to experience Asian American community. And Kristen and I bonded over music, even like post, what was it, college-ish? Or like towards like the latter years, we did a lot of covers together.
Mhm.
But anyways, before I make this introduction too long, um, the reason why I selected Kristen to be on this podcast is because Kristen has gone to school out of state. She went to Cornell. And then um she came back to Maryland, and also she recently went to Taiwan. What was it for?
It was just to learn Chinese. It was just for a good time. That's what it was for. I quit my job and I was like, let's just spend 3 months learning Chinese. Yeah.
As most people do.
Yeah. It was just to play. It's just to play.
Yeah, but a lot of respect to Kristen, because quitting your job is not easy, especially when you have like generally financial independence.
Mm.
But to do something that you want to do, even though you're not sure how it's going to play out in the future.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna start off with a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Who else am I gonna ask?
The
Myself.
plant right here.
Hey, what you think? Okay. When you were in Taiwan,
Mm-hmm.
was it hard to make friendships? Like this is post grad, like knowing
Mm.
that that season of your life was temporary. Like you don't know if you're gonna see these people again,
Yeah.
and keeping in touch, time, distance. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, when I went to Taiwan, I totally didn't think I was going to be making any close friends there. Like,
Mm.
I was really going there like I said, to play, to learn Chinese, to
Don't let
educate
your
myself.
parents watch this.
So I could talk with my relatives. Yeah. But I really thought like my time would just be, having fun, eating really good food, like going to cool places, learning Chinese. So I was really, really surprised and really blessed that when I got there, God really provided for me in terms of community and just meeting people that I just connected with really quickly and then just wanted to be friends with them. Um, I will shout out to people. Thrive Taipei Church, I love you. And then NTU Ultimate Frisbee Team, thank you guys. And then Annie and Carrie. Yeah, I was, yes. But we only did drills, so I'm not very good, but my forehand is better now.
Oh, okay.
But
Backhand
yeah, forehand.
flick. Yeah.
Yeah, flick.
Yeah, we also play frisbee.
Yes. I will say like, um, initially, I felt like there was a part of me that was trying to protect myself because there are these people that I connected with and I really liked, but I knew that I was going back to the States in 3 months. I knew that a lot of my friends, they were also international. They were going to be in different places. Like we're probably not going to be in the same place in the future. And since I grew up in Maryland, a lot of my friends, and like after college, yeah, I went out of state, but I came back to Maryland. A lot of my friendships have always been like long term, or at least I know like I'll see you again, you know?
Even your high school friends, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so part of me felt like I wanted to protect myself, like I couldn't fully love these friends or hope that we could have a lasting friendship because I was like, oh, how realistic is that really? But the turning point, and I'm so grateful that it happened so early, was I was talking with a friend, and he explained his perspective to me. And to paraphrase what he said, he basically said, like, I've been in Taiwan for 5 years now, and there are so many times where I meet someone that I connect with really deeply, but then they leave. And for a while, he said that it would make him feel really hurt to the point where he actually kind of withdrew himself and didn't want to meet new people anymore. But then he said now he has this perspective where he just tries to cherish every moment he has with each person, no matter how short or long it is. And when he said that, I was like, wow, that's so well put out. And then I started crying. I started bawling in church.
Good.
In front of everyone.
Feel your emotions.
Yeah. But
Oh.
yeah, but it
Were
was
you
like,
guys talking during church?
no,
Same.
so huh? Like
Same.
during no. Crying as the pastor
Okay.
is preaching, and he's like, wow, I must have preached really well today. No, it was like we get lunch after. So
Okay.
everyone was eating together.
Okay.
And yeah, but I think like hearing what he said really helped put into words like what I was feeling and what I was wanting to be able to be free to do, which was to freely just like love these friends and cherish the time that we did have together, even though I knew it was going to be short, even though I knew like, yeah, we spent a lot of time now, but I know very soon we're just not going to be able to spend the same kind of time that we do now. And like, who knows what our friendship's going to be like and later down in the line. But yeah, it still makes me sad, of course, that like I'm separated from these friends, but I'm just really grateful that I met them in the first place. And even if our friendship fizzles out or something like that long term, like I still think that doesn't take away the preciousness and valuableness of the time that we did spend together, even if it was just 3 months. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So you really learned to like cherish those moments. At what like point did you have that conversation within the 3 months?
Within the first month.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
The third month.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Within the first month, I was already thinking, I'm gonna have to leave and like being sad about it. Yeah.
And you also made some really nice reels with your voiceover.
Uh,
It was pretty great. I was watching this and I was like, dude.
Nothing fun happens in Maryland, so.
What have I been doing?
No.
Compared to Taiwan.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. Yeah. I also don't think that I remembered to mention this topic or this
That's okay.
ADHD. But anyways, let me get to it real quick. You may have guessed, you may have read the description, but for those listening, the main idea of this episode is seasonal and long term community, building relationships, growing relationships, maintaining even, and also letting go. I don't know if we'll have enough time to cover it all, so I can always do a part two with Kristen, with someone else, depending on availability. But yeah, Kristen, as I mentioned, has been in multiple communities, has maintained friendships, and I will ask you about letting go of friendships as well if we have the time.
Mhm.
But I myself have bounced around a lot,
Mm.
um, and tried to make friends everywhere I go, but not everyone is always reciprocative, if that's a
Mm.
word. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm actually curious to hear from your perspective what it was like
Mm,
to come to Maryland, because I don't think
mm.
I've ever actually heard that fully.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for asking. Um, So I was a junior in high school in Pittsburgh, and it was a hard high school experience. It was really hard. Um, I was at a performing arts high school, and so we had regular classes, no extracurriculars, and then during 3 hours every single day, we had writing, like
Mm.
fiction, screenwriting, poetry, whatever. But the point of that is that for 3 hours a day, I would sit there and try to learn writing with my classmates. However, certain classmates would bully the adjunct professor. It's public school.
Mm.
There's, authority issues, and then they would also bully other students. But if you talk to a lot of my classmates that I was friends with, we all have similar experiences of it being very tumultuous. There were like new kids and old kids, and the mix was really,
Mm.
the dynamic was hard. So I was willing to leave when
Mhm,
I was a junior.
mhm.
My dad got the offer to move to Maryland.
Yeah.
I was willing because I was like, what could be worse?
Mm.
Um, I'm thankful for that opportunity because I really learned to love writing, but I was jumping at the chance to start over.
Mm.
Then when I came to Maryland, my high school it was big. I'd never been to like a suburban high school.
Mhm.
Um, most kids are the kids that I saw were like, I don't know, it's the suburbs. Like kids have cars.
Mhm.
They're generally more well off. In Pittsburgh, I was in the city.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
and so high school was very lonely.
Mm.
It was lonely before, but it was very lonely. And trying to find a space as a senior, everyone's
Mm.
getting ready
Mhm.
to go off to college.
Yeah.
So I was like, is it even worth trying to make friends? Because everyone's just gonna leave anyways.
Mm.
So I did my best. God provided, but it was still very lonely. I didn't feel like I could fully be myself. But when I came to
Mm.
church and people were accepting of me as I was, um, I did gain a lot of confidence. And it was nice to have people that I felt like I could be myself with. And I wonder if it's because there was like Chinese American, like
Mm.
that cultural shift, right? Like
Mm.
when you're in white spaces, you might feel like you're not white enough. When you're in
Mhm.
like international spaces, you might feel like you're not Chinese enough.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
then being with a bunch of Chinese Americans, albeit y'all were more educated in terms of like all the schools in Maryland are like at a different tier than where I was back in city school. Let me just say it objectively. People move to Maryland for education, but
Yeah.
I digress. Yeah, I felt more at home, and
Mm.
I slowly built up more um, trust.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was really good for me.
Really?
I think
Okay.
I got a
I'm
little too
glad.
confident. I
Really?
don't know. Some elders were like, "Yo, you think you know everything?" Like, but
Okay,
whatever.
they can take a seat. It's okay. They chill. Like,
Big chill.
I think, yeah, yeah. But no, I'm so glad, because I think like you said, like your experience like moving at that late of a time must be so difficult. So I'm glad that for you it was a positive experience. And if it was bad, like it's fine. Like
It
you
was
could say it
hard.
too. Yeah.
I was depressed for a majority of that time.
Mm.
However, having community had a positive effect on my mental health. Like having
Mm,
community that I felt like I belonged to,
mm,
definitely helped. And I didn't become just friends with like people within our grade, but
yeah.
people above who really took me
Mm-hmm.
under their wing too.
Yeah, yeah,
That was nice. Yeah.
yeah.
So, question, what is your definition of a good friend?
I think it's kind of what you've been saying. Like when you feel like you can be yourself, you can feel like you can be completely comfortable with that other person. You don't have to pretend.
Hmm.
I feel like with my closest friends, it's a two-way street where we both can just share what's on our hearts and on our minds and know that no matter what the other person says, like I trust that it's coming from a heart that cares for me, whether it's like they're
Ooh.
encouraging me or if they're challenging me, I can take either because I know that they care for me deeply. Um, yeah, that's how I would define it.
Hmm. I'm probably gonna quote that later and put it into like a
Wow.
post.
Ah, thanks, thanks.
Um, for advertising purposes. No, just kidding. Hmm. For
Yeah.
me, a friend is someone that I can rely on.
Mm,
Um, it's a two-way street. Oftentimes, for myself, I give more than I receive. And
mm,
not that friendship is transactional at all,
mhm,
but sometimes I think I'm like too nice.
mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and there are some friends I had to question whether uh, they really had my best interests at heart. Because maybe they do, but their
mm,
delivery, right,
mm,
uh,
mhm.
doesn't go as intended. Because I would wonder, like, they say they support me, but I feel criticized or feel judged.
Mm.
Versus like speaking truth out of love, right? There's a certain way to do that. But like every time I
Yeah.
make a decision, right? They're like, did you think of this? Did you think of this?
Mm,
And this doesn't go just for
mhm.
friends.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I wonder who you could be talking about. Ooh.
The dog?
Mm. Yeah, Suki, the side eye. I see it
Mm.
sometimes.
Yeah, Suki's my dog. And I'd like to think that Suki played an impact on you getting your dog, Ella.
Yeah.
Yes?
Suki is adorable.
Okay. Um, yeah, I'm learning honestly what a friend is and what a
Mm.
good friend is, especially
Mm-hmm.
in this season of my life. I
Yeah.
think when you're younger, by proximity and common interest,
Mm.
but as you get older, it might be values,
Yeah.
communication styles
Mm-hmm.
slash effort,
Yeah.
convenience, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like distance, stuff like that. But I was talking to another friend and she said she feels like God is very intentional, that's not a word, intentional about placing people in our
Mm.
life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there are
Mm-hmm.
some people you'll be like, I don't know how we met, like,
Yeah.
and it flourished.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oftentimes the friendships that flourish for me are the ones where we're both pointing towards God
Mm-hmm.
and we
Mm-hmm.
kind of like iron sharpens iron.
Mm. Good verse.
But I love my non-Christian friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're really chill. They're not judgmental and they can have just as big hearts.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Um, are you good if I move on to the
Yeah, yeah,
next
yeah. Go ahead.
question?
Go ahead.
Okay. So, what do you do? Kristen came up with this question. What do you do to maintain friendships?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then also, what do you do to maintain long distance friendships?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I think what you were saying before about like convenience is so true. Growing up, a lot of my friendships were just friendships because of convenience. Like we went to the same church, we went to the same school, we were all in orchestra together or something like that. And that was why I became friends with them.
Hmm.
In college was the first time where I had to learn how to actually maintain friendships and intentionally try to spend time with people
Mm-hmm.
because like we all had different majors. We used to go to the same church and then we stopped going to the same church. We weren't in the same clubs and stuff like that. And one thing that I really regretted from college was not making more time in my schedule to, or like just letting my schedule be disrupted so that I could spend time with these people. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. Because A lot of the times, because I was like, "Oh, maybe it's because 'cause I'm introverted, like, I just need alone time, and that's why I didn't spend time with people." But I think it wasn't really an introversion or extroversion thing, it was that, like,
A priority
yeah, a
thing?
priority thing where I was like, "This is what I wanna do today, and my friends don't fit into that, so I'm just gonna" even though I could, maybe I could grab a meal with them or I could do something,
Mhm.
like, it's just easier to go with my schedule, and by the end of college, I remember looking back and just being like, "What have I done?" Just, like, feeling yeah, but that's to say I mean, I think I'm still kind of bad at it, but what I've learned is that since I am a really structured person, what helps me to maintain friendships is to have structure, to be like, "Okay,
Oh.
Wednesday nights is when I call this friend," or, like, "The
Oh.
3rd Saturday of every month, this is when I meet up with this friend,"
I'm
or,
learning
like
new tool.
yeah, yeah, or, like, every Saturday, we're gonna play board games together, or,
Okay, yeah.
or something like that. Having that schedule helps me a lot, and the second thing is, like, when I do stuff on my own, to try to be spontaneous, to ask people to join me. Like, they don't
Oh.
have to join me, but I can do my thing and then see if they're free. Like, for example, I've been studying, for certification. Ugh, hate it.
加油.
Yeah, yeah, and, like, sometimes I'll study at a cafe and I'll just, like, type into a group chat and I'll be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna be studying at this cafe today. If anyone wants to
Girl
stop
never text
by."
me. Just kidding. Keep going, keep going.
You're okay. Next time, next
It's
time.
okay. We haven't talked
But
in a while.
yeah,
It's okay.
yeah. But like, that's also an example because like, it's not like I expect them to come, like, it's okay if they don't come, but if they happen to be free and they can come, then, like, yay, I gotta
Mm,
see them that day, so
mm,
it's like a mixture for me of scheduled things and then spontaneity, sort of.
mm. For me, I never thought about a routine, like,
Mm,
every this day of the month, I'm gonna talk to this person. I kind of just like my brain is like do 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 like always thinking about people. And so
mm,
I'll look at my week or my month and then I'll be like at the time people will message me or I'll message them and be like, hey, where can I fit you into my calendar?
mhm,
And because I'm working a little more flexibly these days, I can have more time. However, I've actually been laying low a little bit
mm,
because certain people drain my energy. And not in a bad way, but I just like
mm,
I'm realizing my capacity to be a listener.
mm,
Um, and my energy, like
mm,
battery, social battery.
mm,
Some people like really rejuvenate me, and then some people may like take a lot.
mhm,
And it's not like objectively good or bad, it's just like how we interact with people. So I'm like learning how to recharge, which makes me sound like an introvert. And I thought I was an extrovert. It's a journey, whatever. But do you experience that?
I do,
After
but
this, she's
sorry,
gonna
I
be like,
have a
I need to nap because this girl drains my energy.
No, no,
No,
no,
I'm
no,
joking.
no. Sorry, I'm not gonna answer that. Could I ask a
Mm,
question? Like, for those friendships that you do end up leaving feeling drained from,
mm,
like, what keeps you in those friendships rather than just
mm,
keeping the ones that rejuvenate you?
mm. Loyalty, kindness, and I think it's hard for me to uh let go thinking like, oh, if I um there's a difference between draining and then there's negative energy as well.
Mm,
Um that's something I'm working on. I just set
mm,
boundaries though. Like
mhm,
I cannot see this person as frequently. Um and it's not because I dislike them, but it has to do with like compatibility as friends. And
mhm,
doesn't mean I dislike them or like hate them. Just kind of like differences in alignment in the season of my life, maybe.
hmm,
So I'm learning to set boundaries
okay.
instead of feeling responsible for managing those emotions and continuing to let myself be drained.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Do you think it's a compatibility issue or is it like expectations issue? And what I mean by that is that I found myself in situations with friends where it's like m more often, I don't think about the compatibility issue because if I'm friends with them, I feel like I'm probably compatible with them, but it's like someone wants more than what I can give, or I want more than
Oh.
what they can give me in terms of time or energy or
Oh.
support. I don't know if
It could be I would say it's a mix of both,
hmm.
depending. Yeah. But these days, I love spending time with my grandpa.
Hmm.
He don't talk much. He's my
Mm,
namesake, Victor.
mhm.
Um, I don't know how long he has to live,
Hmm.
so I wanna make the most of it,
Yeah.
and, he recently decided to follow Jesus. Miracle.
Oh,
Miracle.
praise God. That's awesome.
Self-made man,
Mm.
agnostic,
Mm.
decided to believe after my grandma passed away.
Mm.
Yeah. But that's a side tangent, and that's a good question, what you asked, like, why do I stay in those friendships?
Mm.
Um, or what yeah, that's something I'm working on, and then that kinda leads to, like, letting go of friendships. Have you ever had to
Mm.
do that?
I think for me, what ends up happening is that we just don't talk to each other and it just ends.
Yeah,
It's
you
really
don't, like,
sad.
confront each other, it kinda
Yeah.
just fades.
Or maybe sometimes it's not okay, there are friendships in which maybe something has happened that
Right.
has created a rift, and so that's why we fade away, but there are also friendships that it's just like we get busy and we just don't prioritize each other.
Hmm.
And then we used to be really close, and then all of a sudden we're not that close anymore.
Yeah.
But with some of these friends, it's like, well, I know like I'm still gonna hit you up if I'm ever in your city or something like that, or like I still care for you in that sense, but I'm willing to accept the way things have evolved.
Mhm.
And then other friendships, it's like, uh, to this point, like I feel like I don't really know you as a person anymore, and I don't know if we're friends anymore, but that's usually how it's been for me, but
Mm.
how about for you?
Uh, yeah, I have, naturally, just by, distance, and then I have by, like, semi-confrontation. And I think communication is so valuable through, especially if there's conflict, right?
Hmm.
Um, and then if there's distance and then someone reaches out, like you can decide for yourself, but learning when to communicate and learning when to not, learning
Mm.
when to say something and learning when to withhold,
Mhm, mhm.
eh,
Mm,
a
mhm.
challenge, a lifelong
Yeah.
challenge. Yeah. So thank you for asking me questions. That's very podcast host of you.
Well, you said this is just a conversation, so, like,
Yeah.
when you mention things, I just naturally wanna ask certain things. Um,
Yeah, my brain
mm,
kind of went multiple different places actually.
mm.
Um, but for the sake of time, uh, I might have to cut it here. Quick question.
Okay.
Quick question. Mm. This is a question maybe we can ask our listeners.
Okay.
Do you think Christianity slash following Jesus requires us to be friends with everyone? Don't let us bias your answer. Let us know. Email us, comment.
5
Yeah.
stars.
For the people listening, what we just did is we crossed our arms, led by Kristen, fervently, vivaciously crossed her arms in an X, and you can interpret that as you will. Um, that is it for today's episode. Thank you so much, Kristen, for being my guest. 谢谢
Thank you for
你。
having me.
Thank you for listening to the Erasing Shame podcast. Get this episode's show notes at our website, erasingshame.com, where you can also browse our past episodes and contact us to start a conversation. We'd love to hear from you. Subscribe to the Erasing Shame podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any podcast app. This podcast is the digital outreach of Christian Asian Mental Health and a program of Catalyst Wellness Alliance.